I can't believe it's been a decade since Undertale came out. This may be a different review than some of my others. I'm not going to front y'all, this is one of my favorite games of all time. Definitely in my top 20, if not top 15 games of all time. So suffice it to say that I'm giving Undertale a rock solid 10 out of 10. The thing about this masterpiece that makes me love it so much may be the same reasons you may have with it. I remember another YouTuber calling this the most video essayed game of all time, and honestly I couldn't agree more. There really isn't much else I can add to what so many other people have said, so I want to talk about my experiences with Undertale. Undertale is a lovingly short adventure through the inner caves of Mount Ebott. Here is where the first homages to RPGs as a whole are seen. It's no secret, Toby Fox loves Earthbound, and the main character here has a similar feel to Ninten and Ness of the Mother franchise. The thing I love about the look of this character is that the kid is androgynous. No matter who you are or how you view yourself, you can immediately put yourself into this game. The same goes for how you play it. This game has two main ways to play, and everything is dependent on how you view yourself. If you go into this game blind, start playing like a traditional RPG, congratulations! You just ruined your save file. That's right, this game asks you outright to not fight anything, asking you to instead understand and figure out how every enemy works. Puzzles are a big thing in Undertale, whether they are a Galaga-style box shooter or traversing through a complex multicolored maze with a flame wall chasing you on one end and a homicidal robot who waits for you on the other end. The environments are all spectacular. The ruins are where things begin, and we meet Flowey. Much like his name suggests, he's nothing more than a flower with a cutesy persona, until he shows you his true colors. Flowey decides to show the child his worldview. Here, it's kill or be killed. On the brink of certain doom, the child is saved from a fireball. We are then introduced to Toriel, our savior. Toriel is a motherly figure, instantly wanting to build a connection with the lost child. She's sweet and she's caring, and she shows the child around the ruins, solves puzzles for them, gives them a phone, and most importantly, gives them a home. And truthfully, Toriel hit me personally in a very big way when I first played Undertale all those years ago. The child doesn't have an explicitly stated age, but I've always thought of them being roughly Ness's age, so maybe around 12 or 13, which would make me and the child around the same age when my mother passed. Self-inserting myself in the child's boots was a surreal experience. It made scenes like calling Toriel mom over the phone, or her talking about her books, or even having her baking a pie for them hard to witness. And I know it's silly, but even after 16 years, certain scenes or moments in different media are a little hard to watch or to go through for me. It made it even harder for me to try and leave. But we can't stay in the ruins forever. We need to leave and go home. So, we tell that to Toriel, who then begins to act strange. A bit more pestering, and she eventually tells us to go to our room, and she abruptly gets up and leaves. But following her to the basement, she reveals her intentions. She doesn't want you to escape, because if we do, the underground will kill us in one way or another. You see, the king of the underground, Asgore, wants human souls to give him enough power to break the barrier that separates the humans and the monsters. Being human, our soul is valuable to him, so Toriel wants to destroy the door to the underground. Battling in Undertale is very clever. If you attack, you'll be met with a meter and a line that dashes across the screen. The idea is that you press the action button when the line is in the middle green bit to do the most damage possible. But, depending on which weapon you have equipped, the meter changes a bit. Sometimes you have to match the action button after clicking the button, or sometimes there's multiple lines that you need to click through. But outside of that, the attacks are very bare bones. There aren't any spells to learn, there aren't any cool extra ultra attacks, or any summons in this game. But that's kind of the point. The game incentivizes you to steer clear of attacking by offering you the more interesting mechanic of sparing. To spare any monster, you first need to figure out how they work. This uses the ACT command, in which each monster has a dedicated menu with their own actions. Figuring out the likes and dislikes of each of the monsters will unlock the ability to turn the spare action from white to yellow. But be careful, because every turn you decide to waste acting or attacking or using items means the monsters get a turn to attack you too. Dodging the attacks is what I'd consider to be the main battle mechanic of this game. There are plenty of ways to dodge, but the main way is free movement when the heart is red. Monsters each have a couple of attacks they can perform, but the battles get intense when multiple monsters attack you at the same time. They mix and match their single attacks and you'll have new patterns to dodge based off the old moves. It's brilliant, and really kept me on my toes each playthrough. Well, Toriel is an interesting boss, because you can't actually die to her unless you go out of your way to do so, but even then it's harder said than done. If you reach 1 HP, then all her magic fireballs will avoid you. It's just another way that she shows her motherly, caring personality. She can't bring herself to harm you. On my first playthrough, I didn't understand the spare mechanic. So after a few turns of doing all the ACT commands and hitting spare once or twice, I didn't see the change in the spare command go from white to yellow. So I did what any self-respecting RPG player would do. I killed Toriel, and I fucking bawled when I killed her my first playthrough. It was strange. Here's a character who doesn't really have that much screen time, and I'm crying over what she represented. Like, it's odd. I guess it just kind of took me back to 2009. I never really got to say goodbye, but here Toriel is giving me a speech on her deathbed, and I just felt so guilty. I felt so terrible that I managed to not kill any other monster for the duration of that playthrough. Evidently, I figured out that bosses need you to waste your turn sparing them in order to progress, effectively turning each boss into an endurance run of a pattern recognition and reaction time, but anyway, in a way, I guess I felt a little more connected to the child here. Here I am, trying to go about my life, finding a path so that I can find a way to be whole again, wandering through my life, attempting to make friends along the way, like the child here, missing a parent, not fully being able to achieve the end of my journey. I feel like I'm unable to do any of the things that I set out for. And much like that first playthrough, I became stuck in the neutral ending, unable to achieve the true pacifist ending. No matter how many times I spared every monster, no matter how many dates I went on, no matter every friendly face I met along the way, the death of my mother, or in this case Toriel, has me stuck in this vicious cycle. Well, anyway, sparing Toriel, though, allows you to move on. Through the door and out into the woods? I thought we were trapped underground. The child here is stalked by some unknown figure until well, because it gets me every time, bro. We meet Sans and Papyrus. These two Skelly Bros are some of the funniest characters in the game. These two charming entities are in charge of capturing any human who stumbles through these parts. And wouldn't you know, they happen to find one. No, not the Rock. Us! So we play along with their goofy and wacky puzzles, bringing joy to Papyrus, which in turn makes Sans happy. Eventually, we made it to one of my favorite locales. Here in the town of Snowden, we get to listen to relaxing music and explore around. We go to the library, learn a little bit about the history of the underground, or go to Grillby's and talk to the locals here. Another shop for armor or more health items. We even get to say hello to a family of rocks. But eventually we have to move on and face off with the Royal Guard, who's been trying to stop the child from the moment he saw him. Papyrus has an ultra special move. He can turn our red little heart into a blue one. Not only do any blue attacks mean you have to come to a complete stop in order to have them pass through you, but the blue heart forces you to the bottom of the screen and acts like a little 2D platformer. Sparing Papyrus lets you be able to take him out on a date. Dates are wacky and, honestly, simply a joy to play through. I love that all the dates in the game were just over the top turn-based RPG visual novels, like decision making, like experiences. They're so silly. They all have such great writing too. To achieve the true pacifist ending, we're supposed to go through and do all the dates, so we get to experience everything there is to do. Well, after Papyrus's battle, we forge onwards to Waterfall, and this is honestly my favorite area in the entire game. I love the relaxing music here. The flower puzzles aren't too bad, and I absolutely love the lore here. Walking around and talking to all those echo flowers tells a cute little story. People trying to get their wishes granted by the fake stars in the sky. There's a statue that reveals a code when given an umbrella, and the music box version of this song sounds so good. The fire lantern pathway area was really cool, and there's even a little hidden path to the village of Timmy's. These quirky little gals hold the best armor in the pacifist playthrough, but it costs $1,000. But the other really cool bit of Waterfall is the lance-throwing, terrifying knight who stalks us throughout the area. This little monster kid is a big fan of Undines. Eventually they realize that the human that Undine is hunting is actually us. The monsters, humans, are wicked, vile creatures that destroy everything in their way, but I guess since we're nice, the monster kid didn't feel threatened. Make it to the end of Waterfall and face off with Undine. Now, Undine is actually a tricky boss. Her special move makes your heart turn green, and the green heart acts as a shield, and you need to block all the incoming attacks. I've always had a hard time on this fight whenever Undine throws those yellow reverse attacks. I could just never really get it right on the first attempt. After long enough, we need to run from the battle. This also took me forever to realize on my first playthrough. I spent forever just kind of blocking everything, like mastering the arrows, dying constantly, before I realized I had to run away. It just took me a long time to come to that conclusion. Running away leads the child and Undine to Hotland. Here, under the extreme heat, Undine has a minor heat stroke. Pouring water on her lets her know that you're not so bad a human after all. Much like Papyrus, after the fight with Undine, we can go on a date with her. This is absolutely one of the funniest events in the entire game. It starts with Papyrus introducing the child to Undine awkwardly. Then he attempts to get out of the situation by jumping through a fucking window. Then we begin the cooking date, where Undine's intensity and passion for the art of cooking quite literally sets the house ablaze. And she's our friend now. Walking a little farther, we reach Dr. Alphys' lab. She's in charge of finding a way to kill the humans, so she spends all her time watching us. But that's actually because she really loves human culture. Mostly she likes anime and other nerdy things. She's cute, nervous, and endearing, but honestly the constant phone calls you get from her are quite annoying on the repeat playthroughs. She's trying to be helpful as you run around Hotland solving puzzles, but sometimes she just gets in the way. Dr. Alphys created one of the best and funniest characters. This homicidal robot is Mettaton. He's an actor, popular amongst the entirety of the Underground. But he wants to kill us as he's programmed to, so there's that little flaw of his. We can't beat him since he's indestructible and such, so we have to just hope and pray that his next shenanigan won't be our last. Along the way, though, we get interrupted by my favorite boss in the game, Muffet. She's simple enough, I suppose. Her big move is that she'll send her pet muffin monster, or maybe it's a cupcake, I don't know, after you, and she'll turn your heart purple. This makes you shift between rails, dodging different baked goods. Speaking of which, if you bought a baked good from the spiders all the way back in the ruins, you can certify that you're a friend to the spiders. Thus, you can finish this fight just a little early if you do that, which I thought was super cute. Making it through Muffet's spider dance, we meet back up with Mettaton, who sings us a beautiful monologue. I learned recently that it's based off of the opera scene in Final Fantasy VI, which, now that I know that, I can totally hear it. Of course, things go awry, and we're forced between a firewall and the crazy robot singer. We'll end up fighting Mettaton either way, and here, Dr. Alphys turns your heart yellow, turning into a mock Galaga-style gameplay. This startles Mettaton, who runs away towards the core. Entering this famed locale, we stumble upon a hotel run by Mettaton. Here, we can stock up on healing items, and around the corner, we can get some weapons and armor from Bratty and Caddy. Pushing through to the core, Alphys continues to try and help us. The problem is, there seems to be an issue with her information. Everything she tells us to do is the complete opposite of what is happening, so we constantly trigger traps. It turns out that Mettaton had hired assassins to ambush us, and to rearrange the core. It's not a problem though, surviving the ambushes and solving the puzzles aren't too bad here. At the center of the core, we meet Mettaton for the last time. Alphys tells us the story to defeating Mettaton. There's a giant switch on his back, as it turns out. Flipping it turns him into Mettaton X. One intense Galaga battle later, and we blow up Mettaton. Dr. Alphys apologizes for all her mistakes, including her creating Mettaton and helping him at one point in the journey. She feels ashamed and disheartened about her actions. Well, whatever, I'm sure it'll work itself out somehow. Through the core, we made it to the castle. Our last trek through the seemingly quiet castle, we stumble upon a grayscale version of Toriel's house. Here, we need to find 2 keys to unlock the basement, and as we search around and make our way to the castle, monsters stop us. They don't attack, however. Instead, they begin to telling us the story of how the king and queen separated after a human child fell from the hole and made it to the ruins. This first child befriended a monster child who was actually the prince. They lived together for quite some time until one day the human fell ill and died. He only wanted to see the yellow flowers from his village. The prince made it outside of the underground after absorbing the child's soul, turning himself into an incredibly powerful monster. He went out carrying the child to get those flowers, and the humans who ended up finding them believed the prince killed the child. Unfortunately, both children lost their lives due to the humans' reactions. After that tragic story, we meet up with Sans. Here he checks us out and determines if he needs to step in and involve himself. He judges you based on your EXP, also known as execution points. Increasing your EXP enough increases your LV, which means level of violence in this game. But if you manage to not kill any monsters, he'll just simply let you go. Continuing onward, we can reach the throne room. Here we meet King Asgore, as he's humming and watering his garden of yellow flowers. Asgore is a friendly and benevolent king. He seems that he doesn't want to harm humans either, but he needs to do this in order to free his people. He needs one more human soul to break the barrier. Our soul. So, he leads us to the barrier where he reluctantly initiates the final battle. With Bergen Trucken playing, Asgore shatters the mercy button, and the fight begins. With Asgore's theme blaring, we are forced to throw away our morals, convictions, and our determination. We must fight Asgore. Be sure to bring the pie from the beginning of the game, because much like Muffet, if you eat it during the fight with Asgore, he will actually react to it. I think he drops his attack and defense. Asgore also uses orange attacks. We dealt with orange attacks in the core while evading the traps, but I believe he's the only fight that actually uses them. If blue means stop moving, then orange attacks means constantly keep moving so that they pass through you. Asgore is my second favorite fight in this game. His silhouette holding the menacing red trident as he constantly showers you with a flurry of fireballs is amazing. Along with the storytelling, he comes off as a hurt father, a man who experienced pain, who's just living to achieve his goal, putting on a friendly face for others. He reminds me of my dad, actually. After my mom passed, he wasn't the same jovial person I remember him being. Her passing sent him through a tough place, and I'm not sure if he managed to crawl himself out of it yet. There are days I see the cracks in the mask he wears. He doesn't really want to talk about anything regarding my mom, so can't really be too sure. Living with him isn't easy on either of us. We bicker like any family, and one time it kind of came to blows. Honestly, it's going to sound silly, but that fight also kind of reminds me of Asgore in a way. I have a hard time returning to it after that day. You can die in the fight against Asgore, but it feels like Asgore regrets it. Every time you die, actually, it's Asgore you hear in the game over section, amping you up, reminding you to stay determined. Just like my dad. He realized he shouldn't be fighting, but even with all that anger and rage in him, we moved past it. together. I'm not trying to paint my dad as a bad man or anything, mind you. I love him dearly, but there are days where his hurt takes the better of him. And we may not talk much these days, but I know he'd do anything for me, and I would do anything for him. You know, we're all that we got left. Anyway, eventually we nearly defeat Asgore, and he opens up to us about his side of the day he lost everything, his ambitions and his goal for his people. We have the option to spare or kill Asgore, and sparing him makes him want to take care of us with his wife, and I'm sure he believes the kid could fix the broken bond between him and his wife, but we never truly get to see the answer to that story, because Flowey comes out of nowhere, and he attacks the king. Remember, boys, in this world, it's kill or be killed. And this is the neutral ending. Flowey crashes the game, and once it's opened back up, we're met with an all-powerful Flowey who has absorbed all 6 of the human souls. It's our chance to go and defeat this abomination. The music is intense. The design, all over the place. The battle is hectic, confusing, tough, and extremely fast-paced. What an incredible experience. I'm pretty sure you can't die in this fight, because Photoshop Flowey will bring you back to a pre-designated checkpoint. But one detail I never noticed before this, until I did this playthrough, but the souls, when they attack, they actually use weapons that you can find throughout the game, like throughout the underground, like the used gun, or the ballet shoes, or the frying pan. And that's such a neat little detail that I never realized before. And the only way to beat him is to call for help from these souls. They all eventually leave Flowey, weakening him, and this allows you to choose either to kill Flowey or to spare him. Flowey leaves and the game is reset back to your last save point. All that's left to do is to head back to lab and chat to Dr. Alphys. At the lab, we head down her elevator, and here we learn what has been bothering Dr. Alphys this entire time. Walking around the desolate and spooky lab, we're attacked by these weirdly shaped creatures, these amalgamations of different monsters. These horrific beings, you learn quickly enough, aren't actually evil, they're just misshapen. As you look around for all the keys to open the doors, you'll stumble upon a few VCR tapes. Tapes that audibly display different days in the life of Azrael, the prince. Most of these tapes are about Azrael and the first child, who for some reason is named after us. The one that is most interesting is the one where the first child is on their deathbed. Eventually, we learn that Dr. Alphys was tasked to figure out a way to break the barrier and to do research on the souls. She also began attempting to infuse determination into monster souls, since the determination was a huge part of the reason that humans are so strong compared to monsters. The determination experiments led to the amalgamations that we see in the lab here. Feeling guilty over what she did to the monsters has been weighing on her for such a long time. And with the child's help, she comes to the decision to tell all the monsters the truth. The amalgamations go back to their families too. After the lab journey, you can take Alphys out on a date, so together, you go to the dump to hang out. It's the raddest place to be. At least, according to Caddy and Braddy. Well, anyways, Alphys confides in us that she actually likes Undyne in a romantic manner. Hey, wait, who's behind that pile of garbage? Why, it's Undyne, look at that. Go ahead, Alphys, go shoot your shot. After that adorable matchmaking, it's time for us to go back to the end of the game and get out of the underground. Back at the barrier, we meet with Asgore, once more for the continuation of our greatest battle! Toriel, what are you doing here? Well, once Toriel is done yelling at the king, the gang shows up. Is everyone here to stop me from dying at the hands of Asgore or something? That's cute, y'all, but I've been through this once before. I got this. But to my horror, Flowey appears and captures everyone. Flowey then tells us the reason he got everyone to go to the throne room. He wants to continue playing this awful game with us forever. Flowey collected all 6 of the human souls and is willing to continue to collect them if we deny him his little game. As the speech continues, we take massive damage, but our friends protect us and heal us. Well, not just our friends, but even the monsters that we spared along the way. True to Flowey's words, however, he absorbs everyone's soul, except ours. Flowey, true name Azrael Dreamer, has emerged with a new body. This begins the true final fight. We can't give up. And I won't lie, y'all, dying here is not an option. The child's determination is too strong. No matter how many times you die, your soul just simply refuses. Eventually, Azrael will hit us with his ultimate attack, but this too is unable to stop the child. Azrael then transforms into his most powerful winged demon form. It is time for us to save the world. But in order to do this, we need to call out to our friends for their help. This is such a lovely Earthbound moment. Well, even Azrael gets saved from our calls. Here, Azrael's turned back to a child. He asks us to tell him our true name. Frisk. This is such a bittersweet moment, where this lonely lost child asks for forgiveness. With his remaining power, Azrael breaks the barrier. He even returns all the souls. Azrael's forever to be trapped as that menacing flower. Once Frisk comes to, they find themselves in a room that leads to the surface. Here you can leave with all your friends to the surface, or you can take one last trip and say goodbye to all the monsters you met along the way. Look, the amalgamations are with their families. Oh, isn't that so cute and also kind of weird? The game ends with Frisk and the gang looking out to the sunset. One by one, they head forward off on their own little adventures. Toriel even takes you by the hand if you so choose to go with her. And that's the game. Well, that's 2 endings at least. If you decide to venture forth and become something far worse than being a monster or man, then you corrupt your file forever. Or until you decide to delete all the files in the game, that is. The genocide route is honestly not even worth playing outside of the 2 actual boss fights of the game. Thematically, the genocide run comes off as a way to tell the moral of loneliness through violence, right? As you progress in the run, the less and less monsters pop into town, and the less and less monsters actually attack you. I get it. It's a powerful feeling, but I think there's an issue or two with it. I love the idea that as you begin to kill off the monsters, the longer it takes to find the next encounter. Sometimes it just takes forever. And my issue is that in the ruins, you need to kill 20 monsters before you actually enter the genocide run. Like, it's a prerequisite to entering genocide run. The game never gives you any hints until you kill like 16 monsters or so. Once you enter the run, every save point conveniently tells you how many are left, so that's nice. Maybe the ruins could do that too. I don't know, maybe after like 5 kills. Like, imagine like your first playthrough, you know, like you don't know not to kill the monsters, so you kill like a handful of them, and then like you make a tutorial and you kind of kill her too. If you do that, you're locked out of the genocide run. Like, if you kill like 5 monsters and reach a checkpoint that says 15 left, like that'd be great. I feel like 5 is just a good number. Like, I feel like you run to 5 monsters up until the tutorial boss fight. One note that I love too, and I wish I had known this, but the game counts the individual monsters per encounter. I thought I needed to find 20 encounters, but I managed to do it in like maybe 15 or so, because I found a couple of double attacking monsters. Another thing that I noticed by accident was something I started to call the stutter step. If you hold down and diagonally walk into a wall, whether that's left or right, so holding up and down and then moving left or right, you begin to stutter. It only works on horizontal walls that are on the top of the room. You can't do it on like a wall that's horizontal on the bottom of the room. It has to be on the top for it to work, by the way. But if you do this, you find more monsters a little quicker. I think it's because it's counting every up and down movement as well as left and right as separate steps, and it triggers attacks a little faster. Anyway, doing that got me to find encounters really quickly. There are some areas where it took me a good minute to find an encounter still, but I feel like it worked out more times than not. My other problem are the boss fights, ironically. There's only 2 of them. The only one I think made sense for them to be the way that it turned out was Toriel. I think Toriel and every other boss except for Undyne's Hands dying in one hit was a bad decision, except for Toriel. I think Toriel is the only one that makes sense. And truthfully, Toriel is the only one that I can see it truly working for. You know, she leads you through the ruins like normal, she still gives you a phone, she still bakes you the pie, brings you home, everything's normal, right? She spends time with you, you spend time with her, she's motherly to you, she cares for you, she wants to see you be a good person. And then at the last second you want to leave, and then you murk her. Like, it's tragic, right? And it's not even like a long, lengthy battle like it is in Pacifist Run. It's one hit. You kill her in one shot. She lets down her guard because she thinks of you as her child, and then bam, you kill her in one hit. it's a tragedy. But every other boss, this does not really work for me. Papyrus, sure. I mean, you still follow them, but the thing is, the Genocide Run turns all of the puzzles off. Like, it turns all the puzzles off in the environment. You never spend that much time with Papyrus. Like, all the bits are still kind of there, but they're just, you know, they're like jokes that fall flat for Papyrus and Sans in game because the kid holds the same menacing expression. And in that case, like, there just aren't that many gags with Papyrus. So him dying in one hit just doesn't make sense. I feel like having a fully longer battle with Papyrus would make more sense. Undying had a fantastic fight. Attacking the monster kid at the beginning of that fight was a fantastic maneuver. Oh my god, phenomenal. When I saw that, I was like, oh shit. This is the first time I've done Genocide Run. I've never done Genocide Run before. The first time I saw that scene, I went, oh fuck, I didn't realize that's what you had to do. That was a good one, a good moment, because not only does Undyne protect the monster child, but she dies in one hit in the same method as all the other ones, except she has determination. She's one of the only monsters in the world that has enough determination to will herself to continue, and she turns herself into Undyne the Undying, and that name is fucking fitting for the badass that she is. This semi-immortal puts up one hell of a fight, and it never feels impossible. It still feels beatable. It's hard. It's a tough fight, but it's not impossible. Like, it put me through the ringer, but I eventually got through it in one day. Like, it still took me like a good 40-50 minutes to get through it, but I managed to do it. After the waterfall area, you head towards Hotland, and here a majority of Hotland is shut down. There aren't like any of those little jumping puzzles. Actually, most of that area is shut off, so you can't even get like the apron that heals you, or even the frying pan I think is down there. You can't get those weapons. They're locked out because those areas are shut down, because Undyne's plan was to stall so that Alphys can get everyone to evacuate, and so I guess her plan was also to shut down main access to the core. So everyone evacuates. Pretty much everything in the core is empty. So we like breeze through an empty hotel, we breeze through an empty core, minus the 40 encounters that we need to find. Of course, all these 40 monsters we fight, they're all Royal Guardsmen. They're trying to stop you as the story is going on, right? They're not just the joking bird monster who tells jokes and like whose dad is in the audience and you fucking murk his kid, you know what I mean? Like, they're not just regular inhabitants that you find along the way. They're not these amalgamations that were created by accident. You know, they're royal guards. Their goal is to protect the kingdom from any menaces like us. So we find Mettaton, but this time he makes a big spectacle of his new form, and he's dead too. Oh, there goes Mettaton Neo. Like, see what I'm saying? Like, they draw out Mettaton like he's supposed to be like this human killing monster machine thing, and like he has a brand new form and it's supposed to be all badass, and you just kill him one shot. Like, I get, like, I'm supposed to be a human, I'm supposed to be stronger than the monsters, but Mettaton isn't a monster, he's a robot. Like, it should make sense that he's a harder fight than Papyrus or the dying Undyne, right? Like, he should be harder than these other monsters. I'm surprised that he went down in one hit. Like, that kind of was pathetic, if I'm gonna be honest with you. I can imagine these fights being character filled with these bombastic personalities in new ways, and they just feel empty. And like everything else in this environment, like everything in this playthrough, like, it's just long and droning and empty, and that's the feeling that the game is supposed to give you, right? Because being violent is supposed to make you an empty shell of a person. That's the goal of the Genocide Run, isn't it? Sans is the only fight left. For all intents and purposes, this fight is the reason for the delay in this video. So if it doesn't come out on August 21st like I'm planning on it, that's why. It took me 3 weeks to beat Sans, and like I kind of forgot to record the actual fight where I won, so it's been a hell. It's been a hectic recording session with Sans. It's been 3 weeks of frustratingly dying every time I fight him for like hours on end, and then when I do actually beat him, I never hit the fucking record button. And then of course I saved after that. Anyway, Sans is the ultimate endurance run. And you know, truthfully, if you go in with the right healing items, he's not so bad. The problem with Sans is the fatigue. Like, every little mistake you make really adds up with him. His fight's just so long compared to the other boss fights in the game. You need to attack in order to progress this fight, so healing wastes turns. Acting wastes turns, mercying wastes turns. You can't do anything outside of attacking in order to progress through the story of the game, of the fight. And nothing feels worse than wasting a turn to use your last healing item right on the last turn, only for you to mistime a jump and eat a laser to the face, and then having to heal again, and then die all over, and then reset and start from the beginning of the fucking fight, and waste 3 fucking anyway. Sans is definitely the toughest boss in this game, but he is really manageable. You just have to go in with the right equipment. I recommend stocking up on instant noodles, and if you find dog residue, you can get dog salad out of it if you just keep emptying out the dog residue. Just a tip from what I understand. Once you land the final hit on Sans, though, something happens. Something interesting happens. He bleeds. He's the only monster that we see, A, withstand an attack, right? Unless Undyne is dead at that point, too. And the other monsters don't really count. But B, he bleeds. Is Sans human? Is he a monster that has a human soul? Is he Ness? I'm pretty sure game theory wasn't clicking with that one. But, you know, he walks away after the fight, leaving you to your reward. Right? Like, I feel like the escalation of these fights should have been interesting. Like, Toriel, the motherly normal monster, dies in one hit. Papyrus is a royal guard. You should be a little harder to fight than some of the other bosses, but still ultimately dying to you. Undyne dies, but also comes back. She has determination. Her fight's a little harder than Papyrus, right? Mettaton, not actually a monster. He should be a tough fight, too. Sans, human, is the hardest fight. That's how I think it should have played out in Genocide 1. It should have been a building structure of difficulty instead of the bullshit that was Sans. Before Sans, the hallway that contained all the monsters telling you Azrael and the first child's tragic story is now actually filled with scenes of Flowey constantly interrupting you as he plots to take over the underground. The problem is, we're stronger than him. Eventually he realizes that too, and he runs to cower in fear next to Asgore. We reach them, and we take care of Asgore and Flowey. Upon Flowey's death, we release what the community believes to be the first human. I don't believe they ever tell you their name, but it's Kara. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. I'm thinking like character, so Kara. Well, anyway, Kara here is a soulless human seen in the opening cutscene. They speak to Frisk, or even perhaps you, the player. It's a very meta conversation. One that ends in unfortunate results. You see, at the end of the conversation, you're given a choice. You can either spare this world or erase everything. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because Kara destroys the game. This brings you to a windowed mode, you take a hit, the screen shows a red 9 error, and the world is gone. Force quitting the game and rebooting it makes you come to a completely empty world, depicted by a black screen and howling wind. This part is also cryptic. You're supposed to wait 10 minutes until Kara decides they want to talk to you. This, upon reboot, brings the game back to a semi-normal state. You're able to do any type of playthrough you want, but keep in mind the dialogue will be different, and there are more changes to the endings. Because you're no longer Frisk in these soulless runs. You're Kara, a mimic capable of destroying everything you care about in a blink of an eye. I don't have to talk about the music of this game. If you've been around since 2015, you'll definitely know how amazing the soundtrack is. You've probably heard it in other people's videos, like just as regular background music. It's become like an internet sensation, and it's just kind of been adopted by game reviewers and people who just make content in general. It's fantastic. This game's presentation is perfect for the story that it's trying to tell. I love how charming this game is, and I hold a massive emotional tie to Undertale. It really is a beautiful game with an incredible tale and fun gameplay mechanics. And even after all these years, it's still one of my favorites. And I hope to see you all sometime soon. I think next time we're going to take a look at a Sucker Punch game I've never played before. See y'all then.